Hi, I'm Bill Arnold. Thank you for listening to this podcast. There are many more podcasts available at myfaithradio.com. Your support makes this possible. Thank you. And now the show that's only half the price of those brand name shows.
Oh, don't you know, it's the Bill Arnold Show. It's Bill.
And a warm welcome. So glad to have a brand new guest on the show, Tim Foots, joining me. He's written a book called Reaching for Remarkable, the 7 key signatures behind every remarkable team. And boy, teams are critical. And every church and organization and nonprofit, and I'm looking forward to asking him all kinds of questions. But before I do that, I want to get to know him personally. Tim, so glad you could join me today.
Thanks, Bill. Great to be on the show. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah. Now, Wyatt and I were talking about your accent. It sounds like it's from Australia. Is that correct?
Yes. Well done. You didn't say New Zealand, so we're going to be friends. Yes, yeah. It is Australian. I've been here. I'm in my 25th year living in the US, though. I reside in the Denver area, but grew up in Tasmania, born and raised in Tasmania,
Wow.
raised in the church, which is not always the way in Australia because it's more of a secular nation, but all the initial things, Bill, I learned about teams, I learned in church settings.
Nice.
Serving on teams and being developed by teams and volunteer teams. And then I went into the music industry and also ministry, and that ended up leading me here to the United States to be on staff at a big church here in Boulder County, which is still home church 25 years later. But
Wow.
After a decade of building ministry, I went bivocational, which has now become my full-time and a half life's work. And that is, I lead a company called the Slingshot Group, and our mission is to build remarkable teams through staffing and coaching. And this book is an extension of that.
Nice. Let me ask you about your faith life growing up, because it sounds like your family was a little bit on the margins if you were the church-going family.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. It's a much smaller percentage in Australia, and I know that's changing here in the US as well. But Bill, I'm so fortunate to have parents that modeled a very real faith for me, but also grandparents. All of my grandparents were believers and like second parents to me, and I grew up in a very real, authentic church environment. I saw what can happen when humans get involved with God's enterprise in the world. It can be wonderful and it can be really, really messy. And so I think that's given me an interesting view. At Slingshot, we work with between 300 and 400 ministry organizations,
Wow.
churches, nonprofits, and mission-driven for-profits a year. So we see all kinds of things, Bill. We see the wonderful things that happen. We see the messy things that happen. But it doesn't taint my view of who God is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Well, I didn't get too far in your book before I came across a line that I want to just read. You say, missions don't move because one person is brilliant. They move
Right.
because people commit, align, and do the work together. If your
Correct.
mission matters, your team matters more.
Yeah.
You got my attention.
Yeah. There have been so many times, Bill, most times where I'm not the smartest in the room, and I'm glad that I'm not. And it began for me, this fascination with teams, on a stage as a musician years ago. You know, my tent making job to be able to work in ministry was working nights in the music biz, in the entertainment world, and what we could achieve as a team of musicians aligned together, listening well, and moving forward together could be remarkable when we're aligned the right way, and we could all lift each other to our best results. And Bill, I realized that in music, there's structure for remarkable results. There's harmony, and there's time signatures, and there's key signatures.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now having worked with teams for the best part of 30 years, and then having built them for the last 15 plus years, nearly 20 years as a company, I've seen that there is structure also for the teams that move mission forward and are aligned. There's things that they focus on, a pathway that leads them to remarkable results. And we know the greatest mission of all is the Great Commission, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And churches, ministry organizations, they're all such a unique expression of the Great Commission. But we can't move that mission forward alone. Jesus didn't move it forward alone. He had a team, and they were a ragtag bunch of guys, but he helped them get remarkable results. The early church began and is arguably the greatest. I mean, when you look at the global church, it's probably the most successful organization in history.
Mm-hmm. So, Tim, your book, Reaching for Remarkable, the 7 key signatures behind every remarkable team. I know this is a big question. I'm going to ask you right up front, but would you be willing to start walking us through these 7 key signatures?
Bill, I'm glad you asked.
Good.
It's always good getting it out there up front, because then we can dig into the different directions you want to go with this.
Okay, that'd be great.
But yeah, we've found that this is a pathway. It's not rocket science. These are pretty obvious things, but we started seeing a pattern. I had a mentor that used to say to me, "Look for patterns, follow no one." In other words, he was saying, "Hey, don't reinvent the wheel and then innovate." And so as we looked at all these teams we were working with, the healthy ones focused on these 7 things, which we're calling 7 key signatures, and this is what they are. The first is conviction. And conviction is the why we do what we do, the why behind the what. It's more than belief. It's something that keeps you going on the days you want to quit. So number 1 is conviction. Number 2 is message. And the message is what the story that our actions tell. So the story our leadership communicates. It's in the things we say, the things we don't say, how we operate. So number 2 is message. Number 3 is culture. Culture is how people experience your team. Culture is the soul of your organization or your team. It's the soil. People often ask why culture isn't number 1, because it does kind of undergird everything. But you can't, when you think about it, you can't have culture without a why and a story. That's why this is a pathway. So conviction, message, culture. Number 4 is roles. It's unique contribution that leverages remarkable impact. Roles clarify how we work together. The next one is systems. Systems scale remarkable impact. You've got to have the systems to grow, or there's going to be chaos. The 6th is friction, which is an interesting one, Bill, because people often think, well, healthy teams are harmonious teams. Actually, I used to think that, but now when I work with a team where there's no friction, I get concerned. Because you think of a car and the rubber meeting the road. If there's no friction, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. So if you don't have friction, and there's a difference between healthy and unhealthy, we can talk about that. But if you don't have friction, the healthy kind, your mission isn't moving forward. And that leads to the 7th key signature, which is risk, which refers to bold initiatives that provide breakthrough. And when you follow this pathway, you can make those bold initiatives. You can take those bold initiatives. You can take those risks that are not blind gamble, but they are strategic. So those are the 7: conviction, message, culture, roles, systems, friction, and risk.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I'm really glad we put those on the table right away, because this is going to be very helpful to go through these. So thank you. Let's spend a little bit of time on the why part, because that's a big one.
Yeah. Conviction. I mean, you don't have a mission, or you can't move your mission forward if your team isn't truly inspired by it. I mean, we're investing our best years on a team that we're serving on, and so we have to know why we love this mission, why we want to move it forward. So often we don't realize the mission is stalled. But it's when we get to the bottom of these that we find out, oh, we need to give more attention to being able to communicate our why. Can we write it in a sentence? Can everybody verbalize it on our team? We talk in the book a lot, and we can get to more of this, Bill, about the traps that hold us back with each of these 7 key signatures. And obviously, I'd love to tell you all the traps on each one, but we don't have the time.
Yeah.
They're in the book. But when it comes to conviction, the most common trap is the misalignment trap. If you're misaligned on conviction, it muddies everything. And so when you look at a team in a church environment, in a ministry environment, what do you need to do to avoid that trap? You've got to focus on realignment with your key stakeholders. You have to repeat and rehearse the mission statement, and you have to talk about the unique ways each person connects to that mission statement. Why you get in the car and go to work in the morning if you're on a team at a church or a ministry. I mean, this can even apply to families, Bill. I mean, we're committed to each other. It's that phileo love. You know, we talk about the different kinds of love in the faith environment with eros and phileo and agape. That, you know, that conviction, why we're committed to each other and committed to moving forward our values and our mission, drives everything.
Mm-hmm. Tim Foote is my guest. His book is called Reaching for Remarkable, the 7 key signatures behind every remarkable team. So as we are going to be walking through these, and I appreciate all that you're bringing to the show today, Tim, because this is super interesting. In your book, I know you talk about the traps. You just mentioned some, but this to me seems like a big issue for organizations. What are some of the things that are keeping people from being fully aligned? Because for a lot of people, they join an organization and the mission or the why has already been established. That's probably part of the reason they join the organization. But It takes a while, doesn't it, for them to own it and make it theirs?
Oh, yeah.
And along with that, probably will come some questions and curiosity. And I don't know if you're calling that friction. That just seems like healthy dialogue.
Yeah, it all depends. It's absolutely healthy dialogue. People who are engaging friction in a healthy way, Bill, see it as that, and that's called healthy friction. But okay. I heard a story once. I heard a story once about a team leader and their number 2 who went out fishing to build trust one morning. You know, it's a trust building exercise, and they've been talking about strategy, staffing, stewardship for hours. When the number 2 realizes they've forgotten lunch. And he says, no problem, I'll grab the cooler from the truck. So then, to the team leader's astonishment, the number 2 steps out of the boat, walks straight across the water, grabs the cooler, and comes back. And the leader just sits there speechless, finally shaking their head, mutters, unbelievable, can't even swim. And, you know, that's the problem, Bill, though, with teams. You can feel like you're performing miracles, and other team members will only focus on what you can't do. Remarkable teams don't happen because one person in the team is walking on water. They happen when everybody sees what each other brings, not what's missing. It's when everybody is aligned and moving in the same direction. Sometimes it's hard enough, Bill, as a team trying to agree on what the thermostat should be set to in the meeting room. Mm-hmm. And the right answer, by the way, is 74. That's where my team rolls their eyes. I like it toasty.
Right.
But you see what I'm getting at, though.
Of course.
Alignment is so important. We've even got, we can get to this later on, Bill, but we've even got an assessment on our site, reachingforremarkable.com, that you can take. It's a free assessment, and then you can get your team to take it, that actually heat maps and gives you percentage of alignment on each of these 7 key signatures. We call it the team awareness assessment, because so often we're talking about self-awareness. We're not talking enough about team awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tim, let me take our first short break. Tim Foote is my guest. He's a team expert, author, and leadership coach, and he's written an interesting book called Reaching for Remarkable, the 7 key signatures behind every remarkable team. And if you are on a team and want to sharpen that team, this would be a great book. And again, you can learn more about Tim at his website. Is it timfoote.com? Is that it, Tim?
That is it, or slingshotgroup.org, which is our staffing company, or reachingforremarkable.com. So there's a bunch of different ways.
No, awesome. All right, we'll take a break and be right back. It is my deepest desire that you take the very first step of faith by placing your faith and trust in Jesus Christ. If you've got questions about what it means to begin a relationship with Jesus, text the word faith to 41224. I'm back with Tim Foote, and we're talking about leadership. We're talking about what makes a remarkable team. I bet you're on a team, and I bet you would love to know better ways to show up for that team. And Tim did a great job in the first segment. We talked about the why, the message, the culture or the soil of the organization, the unique roles in it, and the systems. And there's friction and risk, and we're going to move on from there. But Tim, let me just say, I've heard of that theory called the beach ball theory, where everybody kind of just focuses on the color of their stripe, and they sort of ignore the other color stripes because they don't have time for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Bill. That's where roles key signature comes in. It's realizing the people around you and the unique contribution they bring, and it's also, we talked about the whole value of this concept of team awareness. On remarkable teams, you show up self-aware. And what self-awareness means is you're not just aware of your strengths, you're aware of your weaknesses. And when you're leading a team or building a team, when you're aware of where you're weak, then you start to build that team to compensate for those weaknesses, and the team and organization starts to reflect your strengths. The biggest trap we see when it comes to those that only focus on their own stripes or their own beach ball is the comfort trap when it comes to building teams and when it comes to this key signature of roles. And that's when people prioritize compatibility over capability. And what I mean by that is we prioritize things like, oh, we've got an open role on our team. We just want somebody who's a good hang. We want somebody whose personality just gels with ours. Or what we'll often see in ministry organizations or nonprofits is friends or family members that are on a team but in the wrong role. Because relationship has muddied the waters when it comes to capability. And so the whole beach ball analogy is a good one, because we've got to be aware of the stripes of the other beach balls around us and what the other beach balls are doing for us to achieve remarkable results. And that's where also systems comes in, because that helps systemize scalability and growth.
Tim, let's talk about leaders and their self-awareness. I think that's a really interesting point, and I'd love for you to elaborate on that a little bit, that it could be a blind spot for some leaders, is just the self-awareness of their team.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, Bill, that it's important that we show up self-aware. And there's so many tools now for self-awareness. I mean, you can be a color, you can be a number, you can be some kind of animal, you can be, all the personality profiling, and that is fantastic. But I think where this falls apart, Bill, because most leaders have done these profiles. I mean, we're in staffing at Slingshot Group, and we build remarkable teams, and we're seeing all of these personality profiling. We see them on candidate portfolios, and people have done different profiling. It's when they're not aware of the profile of the people around them and how they interact together. Because we know when you put humans in a room to move a mission forward, there's going to be mess. There's going to be friction. And leadership self-awareness is always important. I mean, it's a top value of healthy leadership. But then the next piece is team awareness. Okay, we know about us. We need to understand about those people around us and how we can leverage the uniqueness of each of us to achieve remarkable results. I mean, a really great example of that recently, at time of this conversation, probably a month or so ago, is the Artemis II mission.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it was a remarkable mission. I mean, they traveled 253,000 miles from home, I think. It was the first time any humans had done that in over 50 years. And it was the first woman that deep in space, first person of color, first non-American, all kinds of stuff. But it wasn't just one person that achieved that mission. There was no one hero on that mission. No one person flew that ship. What got them there was shared conviction, clarity, alignment, collaboration, skill, commitment, bravery. As a team, they achieved that mission. And I bet you each member of that team had different strengths and different weaknesses. And in order to survive that mission and achieve that mission, they had to tune in to that team awareness to splash down in the Pacific Ocean. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. We talk a lot in our work, Bill, about being unhealthy, inconsistent, functional, or remarkable. That's our scale for our team awareness assessment. And a lot of teams live around the functional spot on that. And functional is great, but functional isn't going to achieve remarkable results. Mm-hmm. That's why those teams that focus on where they need to align are reaching for remarkable. Now, I heard an interview with the astronauts when they after they landed back on Earth or splashed back into the ocean. And one of them said, "We left as friends, we returned as best friends."
Wow.
Well, Bill, that sounds like functional to remarkable to me.
It does.
And all kinds of things play into that. It's being aware of our strengths and aware of our weaknesses. It's being okay not to be the most or the smartest person in the room. It takes humility. It takes vulnerability. You know, I think one of the biggest things for successful leadership in today's culture is being willing to not have the answers. As the leader of a team, to be vulnerable enough and brave enough to say, "I'm not sure what to do next," actually unlocks collaboration, it unlocks new ideas, and it can unlock remarkable momentum.
Mm-hmm. So, Tim, I want to talk a little bit about how we build momentum into teams, without making people necessarily work themselves to the bone. I don't know if I said that well, but I remember
You did.
I remember a long time ago when I got a job out of college. I was going to be hired by this fitness company, and they said, "Well, okay, you start Monday, but by the way, Saturday their weight truck is coming, and would you want to ever help unload it?" It's like, "Yeah, count me in." I thought, well, this is no big deal. It was the most exhausting day of my life. I mean, I've never, spent more time carrying weights ever, and I thought
A+ for enthusiasm, Bill.
Yeah. So, but I'm thinking of if we're a company that unloads 1,000 pounds of weights every week, and all of a sudden the truck comes in and it's 10,000 pounds. Well, that's a different job, and we can start burning out really quickly.
Right. Well, you've touched on the key signature of systems, Bill.
Okay.
And it's so important that we have systems that shape sustainability. And when I really dug into these 7 key signatures, I realized that systems is actually a stewardship issue, because we all want growth for the sake of the gospel. We all want growth for the sake of the mission. But God's only going to give us the growth that we all pray for if we can actually handle it, and it's not going to burn people out. Does that make sense?
It makes a ton of sense. Yes.
Yeah, and you live up in the Twin Cities, Bill. You'll like this hockey reference. Wayne Gretzky, right? What's his famous quote? "Skate to where the
puck is."
Puck's gonna,
puck's
skate to where the puck is.
Yeah, he had a sixth sense.
And absolutely. So we have to build the systems that are going to provide support for the scalability and growth that we want. Because if we don't have the systems, our leaders are going to get burnt out and they're going to get damaged. Mm-hmm. And our most important resource is our people and our teams. And so we've always got to be looking at, and I love how these build on each other because it touches on roles too, because often, we essentially a staffing company at Slingshot. Remarkable teams and reaching for remarkable is all about our kingdom first responsibility to leave teams healthier than we found them and to place great leaders on healthy teams. Mm-hmm. But often people who come to us for staffing, hey, we need this role. That they'll give us a list of what they want in this individual, and Bill, it's a purple unicorn. Like they're looking for a unicorn, and we'll have to and we'll have to tell them, hey, this person that you've listed here doesn't exist. So let's get some alignment about some some realistic expectations, or you're just going to have an empty role on your team for a long time, or a revolving door. And Bill, last time I checked, unicorns are still mythical creatures.
Yeah, they are, especially the purple ones.
And so, especially the purple ones, and it's about a team. It's not about a shiny object, which is an amazing leader who you think is going to solve all your problems, because that leader is probably going to eventually burn out or leave, and then you're in a bigger hole. It's working out, how do we complement each other? How do we not burn each other out? How do we build the kind of systems that actually shape sustainability? It's interesting, we talked about the traps around each of these key signatures. Well, the main trap around systems, Bill, is the complacency trap. And often we associate complacency with laziness, right? Mm-hmm. But complacency with teams that are functional and wanting to reach for remarkable can actually look like busyness, because you're focused on the tyranny of the urgent, right? Mm-hmm. And you're not focusing on building the systems you need to support the team that you have to get after the growth that you want, if that makes sense.
It does.
And suddenly we're wondering why we're not growing. We haven't got the systems to support the growth. Remarkable teams aren't just busy, Bill. Remarkable teams are always building. They're building the kind of systems that will support the kind of growth that they ultimately want. And our mission deserves it. Our mission deserves it.
Mm-hmm. Tim Foote is my guest. And Tim, in your book, you talk about, and you argue that leadership fails from poor sequencing, not lack of vision. Can you explain that?
Oh, well, I mean, if you're on a mission-driven team, church, nonprofit, mission-driven for-profit, you've got a great mission. I mean, why would you be doing what you're doing? I mean, often when we do the team awareness assessment, conviction is pretty high in the assessment, because we're in faith-based organizations that care about our mission and moving it forward. And we have great values. The issue is the sequencing. We're not focused on the right things at the right time, and we're not focusing on alignment around those things. That's why these are a pathway. And when you boil it down again, I'll hit it again, Bill. When you boil it down, conviction shapes the heart, message shapes the voice, culture shapes the atmosphere, roles shape contribution, systems shape sustainability, friction shapes growth, risk shapes the future. That's good sequencing.
No, that's really interesting. Now, we're going to take a break here, Tim, but before we do, I'm going to ask Wyatt to recite our mission statement here at Faith Radio, because nobody knows it like him.
Ooh, you're putting me on the spot.
Well, remember when we were asked that, and you were the first one to bring it up, and you got a $5 gift card you gave to me.
Well, I did give that to you. Now you're making me, blush, Bill. Come on.
I get it.
But here's what it is. Here at Faith Radio, Northwestern Media, our mission is to lead people to Christ and nurture believers in their spiritual growth through Christ-centered media. There you go.
That's our mission here. All right, Tim, we're going to take a little break. We'll be right back with Tim Foote. If you are just joining the program, he's written a book called Reaching for Remarkable, the 7 Key Signatures Behind Every Remarkable Team. We'll be right back. My guest is Tim Foote. We're talking about his book, if you just joined me, and it is called Reaching for Remarkable, the 7 Key Signatures Behind Every Remarkable Team. So, Tim, my next question would go something like this. I'm thinking about when leadership, when teams, and they're high functioning teams, but they hit a stall. They just kind of plateau out. And why did they do that? And how do we get out of that sticking point?
Yeah, I think there's often a number of reasons, and that's where this assessment comes in, because we can take that assessment with the team and work out where people are in their mindset on each of these. But I would go quickly to a couple of areas on our pathway in our 7 key signatures. And the first is message. Are people really getting the message that's being communicated? So often, and this is the trap surrounding message, the main trap we see is the assumption trap. We assume people know what we're communicating and they care about what we're communicating. And so often where we're stalled out with the volunteers we lead or the people we lead because they're just not getting the message. It's like just before we went to the last break, Wyke recited the mission statement of the show. And that's great. What you just did was you checked alignment around your mission and conviction. You checked that the message is getting through, and he could respond straight away and verbalize that. As you continue down your team, it would be interesting to hear how they verbalize the mission statement and their conviction around it. It's so important to do realignment checks around the assumption trap. Hey, what are you hearing me saying or communicating? What's the main message you're hearing from our organization right now? What kind of message is my leadership communicating right now? And we can swing back around to that because I've got some examples for you. So message, I would also go to, if you've stalled out, friction and risk. If you're not engaging friction, what's everybody thinking but nobody's talking about?
Ooh,
what's bubbling under the surface? Yeah.
Well,
what influences outside the room are infecting inside the room?
How do you create a place where friction is welcome?
Yeah, it's that goes back to culture, but it's all in leadership too. It's being willing to engage the friction, not letting it get personal, but modeling a vulnerability and also announcing yourself. Hey, this is going to be a difficult conversation, but we need to engage this topic so that we can break through it and we can move forward. You know, we call friction the loaded gun of the 7 key signatures because when it goes off, it's either going to bust through a wall that you needed to break through, which has caused you to plateau, Bill, or it's going to hurt somebody. And your job as a leader is to make sure it doesn't hurt anybody. And so you've got to create the right environment to engage friction, monitor it closely, allow it, but monitor it closely. And then the other reason teams plateau is risk. Because it's interesting to think about this, Bill, but the biggest threat to risk is actually success. Success is like Novocaine for risk. Because once you've experienced success, what does risk do? It puts all that success in jeopardy.
Yeah.
But it's only when we have freedom to fail fast, fail forward, learn from our failures, that we move forward. And some of those risks are going to take off and catapult your mission. So there's a number of these areas that can cause your mission or your team to stall out. It's having the conversations and being willing to look at it, take the assessment, and really dig into these things that will help you uncork whatever it is that's got you stuck so that you can continue to move the mission forward.
Tim, what traps are most leaders blind to in themselves?
In themselves, I think, gosh, it all depends on the team because it's so unique. That's the fun part of our job when we do the awareness assessment. When we get into it to a boardroom with a lead team, it's really interesting to see what emerges. But I would say message is definitely one. When we assume that people understand and care the way that we understand and care, that we talk more than we listen. You know, I learned that back in my musician days. You know, a great musical performance with a group of people is just as much about listening to what other people are playing as well as playing. You know, I used to think communication was all about what we communicate, but it's actually more about what we listen to and how we communicate based on what we're listening to. And messaging communication isn't just one person's job, it's everybody's job. And so I think we can get into a rut of not checking that the message is getting across. Culture often is one we get blind to because we're not asking. It's a scary question to ask about the state of our culture, Bill, when we're a team leader. But we're all pulling forward together. Let's have the tough conversations. Do we have the right roles around the table? That's a very important one that we can be blind to. But then I would say where everybody gravitates to, Bill, is friction, because friction feels like a scary topic or a scary thing to practice.
Tim, what's the difference between friction and just someone who seems to be complaining?
I I think it's the appropriateness of the comments.
Okay.
If you've got somebody complaining and it's all about statements and not about questions,
Okay.
then you know that has to be dealt with outside the room. Contrary people on the team, people who are contrary all the time, can be really helpful because it stops you from making quick moves.
Amen.
It causes you to pause and slow down. But people who are just complaining, it's all about statements and it's not proactive.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the important thing is how can we make this proactive? And that's asking questions in response to the complainers. Let's call them complainers today, Bill. It's like, tell me more. If you were leading this team, what would you do differently?
Mm-hmm.
What have you done to try and solve that? It's asking those kinds of questions to unlock the complainers and shift it more to constructive and healthy friction.
Mm-hmm. Tim, I've always thought that the dissenter was one of the most important people in the group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you absolutely. Again, I used to think that harmonious teams were healthy teams, but it was the teams that had no friction at all, which I worked out were actually the unhealthy ones, because you need those voices at the table. And when we squash voices that bring about friction, we're pushing friction underground, and we push it towards unhealthy, and it comes out sideways and in unhealthy ways.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the cost of ignoring the early signs of exhaustion.
Yeah. This is where roles play into it, systems play into it,
mm-hmm.
friction plays into it. When we push down what we see, that people are getting burnt out and getting exhausted and don't deal with that, that's totally counteractive to healthy culture. That's a culture piece. Because culture is the soul of our. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said that culture reveals the soul not just of an organization but of humanity itself. And so when we're ignoring early signs of exhaustion or burnout, what kind of a message does that send, Bill? And we talk about with teams that we work with, when we get into a crisis situation, and often we'll be brought in a crisis situation, we'll often say, hey, do you want painkillers or do you want vitamins?
Okay.
And of course, people want to deal with the pain, but you want to get healthy as a team and move your mission forward, you want vitamins. And the main vitamin for healthy culture is, we say, vitamin R, and that's hard to understand because I'm Australian because of my accent. Vitamin R, for relational equity, and that's building and creating memorable interactions that give effective feedback and demonstrate care. Because what you communicate when you ignore early signs of exhaustion is that you only value that team member for what they do, not who they are. And the main trap we see to healthy culture, and this plays into your question about ignoring early signs of exhaustion, the main trap is the transactional trap. And that's when connections stay task only and belonging and commitment remain surface level. And we've got to be so careful of that. When we're ignoring either somebody's message that they're giving us that they're exhausted, or we're pushing them too hard and there's no relational equity in the relationship, it's going to be short-term and it's going to be unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. That's really helpful. All right, we're going to take one more break. Tim Foote is my guest. His book is Reaching for Remarkable, the 7 Key Signatures Behind Every Remarkable Team. We'll be right back. You might be the kind of person that goes to Paris and still listens to Faith Radio on the app. And I'm thinking of a particular couple from northern Minnesota. Or you might be more like the person that just goes into the next room in your apartment and listens. Well, the good news is using the app is just as easy in both places. Downloading the free app is crazy easy. Just text the word app to 877-933-2484 and then click the link. And if you happen to be in Paris, there is a coffee shop, but you should see the prices of biscotti. They have gone through the roof. I recommend avoiding it. I'm back with Tim Foote. So, Tim, I would love to start doing some biblical application to leadership and how to grow leadership and how to do that with integrity and trust and all that.
Great. Let's do it.
All right. Do you have something you can share with us? Or did
Absolutely.
Did I not bring up the question more? Do I need to bring it up more specifically?
I thought you were going to put me through my paces.
Oh,
and,
no.
And give me some specifics there, but there's biblical application over all of this. I mean, it starts with the Great Commission and what we're all called to, and are we living this out? You know, are we taking the Great Commission to heart and truly Matthew 28:19-20? I mean, are we living that out? And is that what drives us and excites us each day? It's conviction. We were made for a purpose.
Amen.
And then then the message our life sends. I mean, we need to live out the gospel. I mean, I think was it Mother Teresa or Francis of Assisi who said, "Preach the gospel, if necessary, use words." And so when it comes to message, you know, the whole concept of key signature number 2 is what message is our life sending? And then number 3, how are we contributing to healthy culture around us? You know, we need to be, the kingdom starts today. We're citizens of heaven, and how we're living that culture out each and every day. And then Ephesians 2:10 is what roles is all about. We're God's masterpiece, created for good works. He's given us specific roles to play. How are we seeking to contribute the way that God uniquely designed us, formed us in the womb? We're fearfully and wonderfully made, Psalm 139. How are we bringing what only we can uniquely bring to the team that we're a part of? And in systems, he who is obedient and trusted with little will be given much. I mean, when it comes to building systems, that absolutely is a stewardship issue. Luke 16:10, whoever can be trusted with little can also be trusted with much. How are we building for tomorrow? How are we leveraging the right systems for growth? And then, gosh, friction, that's part of just being honest and real and authentic. I mean, you can give me a biblical application for that, for that one, Bill. But that's having real relationships.
You know, I love that passage in Proverbs, as iron sharpens iron, so one man another. And I always think that when iron is hitting other iron, there are sparks flying all over the place.
Right. Absolutely. That's a fantastic one. And then when it comes to risk, I mean, this isn't a biblical reference, but I love this quote. Thomas Aquinas said, if the highest aim of a captain were to preserve his ship, he would keep it in port forever. We are designed, we are made for more. I mean, Jesus told parable after parable of how we invest, you know, the talents, the minds. I mean, all of those stories Jesus told, we've been given this gift of life each day. How are we not burying it in the ground? Yeah. But how are we actually investing it? Remarkable teams understand the critical balance between fear and risk. I mean, that we know that voice of fear is not of the Lord, but that voice that inspires us to continue to grow and to share our faith is so important. And risk in teams, the best example of that is Jesus and his disciples. I mean, his disciples left their nets and followed him, and there was that involved amazing risk. These leaders built the early church. They were motivated by risk because building the early church was full of risk. We know how most of those disciples left this earth. And so there's so much biblical application to this pathway, not just for remarkable teams, absolutely for alignment about remarkable teams, but how we live our lives.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about friction, and I find this to be a very interesting point, because I have always believed that if everything you do works, you're probably not taking enough risks. And with risks comes friction, because let's try it this way. And that's gonna shuffle the cards, and that could cause friction.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why I often say when I'm working with teams or presenting on this content, when we get to friction, I always say, hey, I know this is a wait what, because many of you probably think friction is a sign of an unhealthy team, but absolutely it's not. The absence of friction is. But when I get to risk, I always say, well, this next one is bound to create friction. So they go back and forth. Taking risk creates friction. You got to have the systems to accommodate the growth that could happen with the risk that you take. You got to have the right roles on the team to achieve it. You got to have healthy culture or you're going to fall apart. People have got to be understanding what the message is that you're communicating. And then you've all got to believe in your why. Why are we doing this to start with? It's worth the risk. Your mission is too important not to focus on the health and alignment of your team.
Yeah. I wonder why, and I've seen some statistics that say that employees are less engaged at work, and, businesses in their first year, most of them fail. And then you hear some of the woes of churches that are having a hard time growing new members. And
right.
Is that a Holy Spirit thing? Is it a leadership thing? Is it a combination of both? What do you think that is?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, you and I, neither of us can attempt to understand the move of the Spirit. That's what makes it so mysterious and wonderful. But we have to. I had a leadership mentor who used to say, "Trust God, but lock your car." It's back to Lazarus and when Jesus instructed his disciples to roll away the stone. I mean, Jesus could have moved the stone. He just rose Lazarus to life. We have to do what only we can do so God can do what only he can do. And therefore, I think as far as it depends on us, Bill, it's a leadership issue. I mean, you talk about the workplace and workplace satisfaction. A research by Zippia found that 76% of employees avoid conflict in the workplace. Now, if we need conflict and friction to move the mission forward, if you got 76% that are avoiding it, that's a problem. And so you've got to look at that and go, how do we focus on leveraging healthy friction for remarkable mission momentum? So I think too, all of these key signatures will increase retention of employees and will attract the right leaders. Because if you're all about refining conviction, people are going to stay in the role when it's hard. If you're communicating the right message, just like Jesus communicated the right message and people flocked to that message, people are going to flock to the mission that you're moving forward. If you're concentrating on healthy culture, people are going to want to be part of it. There's always going to be another organization that offers more money and a sunnier zip code. But if you've got compelling culture, people are going to stay on your team. People in the right roles, people want to contribute, Bill.
Amen.
And so if you have role clarity, if you have a one-line role description for each person on your team that connects directly to the mission, it defines the win for them and they're going to want to hang around and be a part of it. If you've got systems to support them, they feel valued. If you're engaging friction and not ignoring the topics that people want to talk about, you're going to attract and retain great leaders. And if you're taking risks, people want to be a part of that. Give me a reason and I'll come running.
I love it. All right, Tim, we're at the 2-minute warning. So one more question I have for you. If a team is going to fix one trap, what changes first?
I think you've always got to focus on strength of conviction. I think conviction drives everything. But then I would say take the team awareness assessment because you've got to find out. It's different. Every team, just like every person, is created uniquely. And when we add people to our team, the culture changes that day. And so I think you've got to start with conviction. And from there, I think you've got to take a good hard look at the other 6 and go, okay, where are we deficient or where are the 2 we're deficient? Often we'll see that there's underlying friction that hasn't been dealt with, Bill. That's often an easy place to go. But honestly, in each of these, you've got to look at the pathway and get a sense of, okay, that's where I need to give the attention.
And then what's the safest way to pursue conversations that might be hard? What is the best way to do that? Is it with one-on-one in a team? How do you do that?
It's with respect It's drawing on strength of relationship, and it's working out when to engage it as a team and when to engage it one-on-one. If it's more a personal thing, engage it one-on-one, then take it to the team. If it's a team-based dynamic, engage it in a team setting and know when to say, okay, we're circling the drain now. Let's take this offline and do some more work and then come back together as a team.
Mm-hmm. Tim, it's been a delight meeting you. This has been such interesting content. Thank you very much for taking time to talk about your book, Reaching for Remarkable.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Bill.
Yeah, my pleasure. Tim Foote has been my guest. Again, his book is called Reaching for Remarkable, the 7 key signatures behind every remarkable team. If you want to learn more about Jesus, you can text FAITH to 41224. And we want to be able to help you understand more about growing in a relationship with Jesus. And we look forward to hearing from you. Text the word FAITH to 41224. That's all the time we have. Have a great night, everyone. See you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Programming like this is made available through your support. Information available at myfaithradio.com.